Hey, so we're back with previously on Arrow Video, and today's one's actually a bit different than usual because I was planning to do a set order of them using a library I set up on the Arrow TV app. And I got to looking through their service just on a more casual basis, not necessarily as part of this monthly reviews. And I saw they had one on there called Last Video Store, and I wasn't going to watch it. For Arrow Video, I was just going to watch in general. And then I thought, it sounds really cool. If you don't notice, if you haven't heard about it, it's 2023, Canada, directed by Tim Rufford and Cody Kennedy. And the synopsis, or the rough breakdown of it, is a love letter to video rent stores and B-move treasures that line their walls. It's a really cool movie. It goes into one of my favourite things, which I do love smaller horror movies where they're dealing with somewhat niche topics and aesthetics. Everyone who follows this channel knows I'm a huge fan of Late Night with Devil, and Last Video Store taps that niche quite nicely. I do have to admit, at first I wasn't sure about it. It seemed like it was a little ropey and a bit too TV themed, and the reason for me saying TV themed is TV works with a lot of close-ups, doesn't really necessarily capture space brilliantly. A bit more nowadays, but back in the day it was very much smaller scale. Use close-ups, medium shots. You're not really encompassing the wideness of locations. In this movie's case, I think that's because they didn't really have many locations because it's primarily set in a video store. And unlike other movies of its ilk, it is literally mostly set in one or two rooms. And that can be a thing which doesn't work. Sometimes it goes against the movie. And sometimes in this movie it feels like it is going against it a bit. That it should, it almost needs a wider scope. I mean, if I was making it, for example, I would have made a bigger video store and use more of that location stuff. But at the same time, it kind of works that it's not a big movie. That it's somewhat more intimate, particularly when they get on with some of the homages later on, like Friday the 13th homage and the Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I don't think so Jean-Claude Van Damme. I guess the cheesy 80s, 90s kung fu, or 70s, this way, kung fu movies, like the sort of knockoff ones. And when it goes more into that territory, you can't get a sense of maybe it's not just set in a small location because budgetary constraints. Maybe it's actually part of the thematic nature of the material. And I do have to add, the budgetary constraints, there are some here, and clearly there are, but there's some generally really good effects. I think in the last year or so, I know I found this Late Night with Devil. I know a lot of people thought the effects were kind of cheesy and goofy, but I thought it really worked, and I think it really does here too, where the effects feel different and weird and off. I just think from my perspective, it helps convey that Eldritch Abomination side better. If you have repolished effects, it just doesn't work for me particularly. It seems sort of like I go, oh, that's very good, you spend lots of money on that. Whereas these ones seem to have compromised a bit more, so they are a bit janky, they are a bit not quite as fluid as you expect. There's a fair bit of stop motion animation here. And generally, it's just creates a vibe of this is definitely a homage to those sort of cheesy movies. Now, that can sometimes not work because it can be seen as like, not necessarily a choice that's rooted in creation or creativity so much as budgetary constraints, as said earlier. But in this case, I think they do a really good job. It feels, like I said earlier, intimate and kind of cozy and kind of just nice. And by the end, you are definitely rooting for the characters. It's a movie where they do a really good job with a really quick pace of getting you to know these characters. And once you get out the opening part with like the monster from Prey Stalker, which, I mean, I gotta be honest, like I think it works, but it's not great. Even with what they're doing, it's not necessarily the best CGI or the best effects. But in general, the movie does do a good job with it. And by the end, I was like, I'm really digging this. It's really cool. It's a cool movie. Now, in saying that, I do think maybe it would be nice if they had bit more room to work with, because I do think intimacy works, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know. I have memories of when I was younger, video stores being these big, epic, sweeping places, and obviously there's a bit of the childish rose tinted glasses aspect to that, but I don't know. I think that's a minor quibble. I think this is, for what is this? No, not even for what it is. This is just really, really, really good. I think the only detriment I can really find to it is I don't think this would work at all in cinema. Unfortunately, despite that, some of the effects are pretty cool and abstract, but in general, I think it's very much shot for a home release aesthetic. It's the same thing I found Skinamarink. I thought it was pretty bad in cinema, but home it fit better, I guess, because it's this movie particularly. They're really going for that old school video, watching terrible videos at home aesthetic, and for that regard, it does a really good job. And I would like to see more. I think these guys who make movie are very good at taking what they have and working within the sort of constraints, but also doing something interesting and cool. So definitely check out Last Video Store if you can. It comes from my highest recommendation, which is I watched it and I did pause it because I was cooking, and doing some work. But in general, I watched the whole thing in one sitting, which is very encouraging. So good on you, mates. You made a good movie. And tomorrow I'll be reviewing that movie for Arrow TV. But hey, if you like movies, follow my Patreon. The link will be in the description probably. Okay, bye.